Hello, everyone, and welcome to Transforming Today Show. I am your host, Rebecca Weintraub, and I'm an intuition coach, and I help individuals and other coaches discover, develop, and strengthen their intuition. So I am here today, the pleasure of having Kim Trosper. Hello, Kim. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me.
The thing I love about your background is that picture in the background reminds me of a lioness. And I can already feel like the power coming out of me just looking at the picture.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Where did you get it?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably maybe Home Goods or one of those stores like that.
Yeah. What does it mean to you?
Strength. You know, that lion. And it's amazing because I love lions. The male lion actually sleeps about 20 hours a day. 20 hours. Yes, amazing. So during those 4 hours, he's pretty powerful.
I guess so.
So I love it.
He wakes up groggy and he's like, oh, I need about an hour just to adjust to being awake. And then it's like, imagine the strength in those 3 hours.
Oh, yeah. Especially if he's hungry.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm totally enjoying looking at that picture today. So thank you for, I know. And we were talking about the background for a little while and the lighting and stuff. And somehow, I don't know, we started and it was like perfect. And I hope I don't get distracted because there's so much in that picture. Anyway, okay, so we're here today because I was enthralled with the story when we were talking a few weeks ago before we set up the interview. And I want you to tell us all about your transformation, your story, what makes you powerful, and what gives you the ability to help others in your coaching.
Sure. Well, I'll go back some years. First, I would like to say I've always been a giver. So I love helping people. So when I believe I was about 21 or 22, I decided to become a foster parent because I wanted to save the world and, kids didn't have enough homes. And I had been married a couple of years and wasn't ready to have my own child, but I had enough love for other children. So my husband and I, we became foster parents. And the first little girl they brought to us was 3 weeks old and she never left. And today she's 23. So we had many children come through our home. And then 2 years after we received her, I got a call about a baby that was just born and his mother had him and left. So he was 2 days old and I went to pick him up at the hospital. And so, who doesn't love a baby, whether they come from you or not? So I get this 2-day-old little baby and he just looks like a little angel. And they didn't last. So I'm sorry to say, as the years went on, we noticed some things with him. He had a normal childhood as far as newborn to maybe 5 years old. We didn't start having problems until we put him in school. And then some things started happening. I put him in a private school at first, kindergarten, and they said after 2 weeks he couldn't stay all day. I was like, well, why not? What's wrong? He was doing some things to other, kids and wasn't listening. And so I didn't have a problem with him at home. I was a stay-at-home mom with him, so I didn't see these things. So I had pulled him from that school and he went to another school and we started having the same problems. So fast forwarding a little bit, at the age of 6, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, ADHD, and ODD, which it means oppositional defiant disorder. So he was the type of child, if you ask him to sit down, he was going to stand up. If, he was just going to do the opposite. And, to this day, I don't know why, but that's how he was. So me being a loving parent, there was no way I was going to put my child on the medication, those drugs that they said he needed. So I wasn't going to do that. So I did a lot of research and I'm like, I know he needs help, but we have to do it in a better way. So I started putting him on some holistic, tinctures. And, I was like a mad scientist in my kitchen. And to be honest, it appeared like it was working for a couple of years. We still had some incidents, but we were getting through. Well, he started growing. I mean, at the age of 11, he was like 6 feet tall. So he started growing, and as he got bigger, I just couldn't manage it anymore. So my only option at that point was we had been going back and forth to the doctors constantly. He had always been doing things in school to get suspended or around the house. I had 3 kids. So I had 2 that was adopted, and then I had my own child. I was a foster parent for about 4 years. And so I wasn't a foster parent any longer. I just had my own children. So there were some things that were going on that it just started to become unmanageable for me. So I reached out for help, and unfortunately I wasn't getting any help. The school didn't want to help me. All they wanted to do was have me come pick him up, when he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. Children's services wouldn't help me. They said that he was mine. There was nothing that I could do. There was nothing they could do. So for me, life became harder and harder because during that time, my husband and I had separated. So he was there financially, but I was there physically, and it was just becoming overwhelming for me. So at the age of, he was around, now during this time period, 6 to 10, I'll say, like I said, I was a stay-at-home mom, but at some point I wanted to just go to college. And so I could, eventually make, support us and make more money, even though, I was separated at the time. I was still able to stay home with the kids. So I, over the years, have been wanting to go to college, but something that I call stinking thinking is that negative self-talk between all the drama I had going on with in my home with my child and getting no help and listening to that inner critic telling me I wasn't smart enough to, go to school and do the math. So year after year after year went by until 22 years later, I decided, hey, I have to do something here. I couldn't hold a job with him because between him getting, he would be admitted to the hospital for, psychiatric evaluations. We had doctor's appointments. We went to all kind of doctors. So with all that going on, there was no chance of me like really keeping a job. So school was really like the only option for me. So I decided to go back to school at the age of 40. Well, not back, but to school, to college. And amazingly, the fear of math was worse than actually doing the math. So, that was eye-opening for me. So as I realized that, hey, I could do this, it was still hard because being a 40-year-old college student with a child with mental health challenges, it would be a day that I was supposed to take a test, and something would happen and the school would call me. He would threaten to burn down the school or blow it up or have a physical altercation with another child, and they'd call me, and, with my nerves was bad, and I couldn't concentrate on my test. So it was really hard. So at the age of 10, we lived in a 3-story house. I was on the first floor. Their bedrooms was on the 3rd floor. And he came one night and he said goodnight to me. And, just like a little kid would do, and he went on his way. I didn't think anything about it. But something told me, go check on him. It's just something didn't feel right. So I go upstairs on the 3rd floor, and I have to walk past my daughter's room to get to his room. And I just look in there, and he had the pillow over her face. And so she's kicking, and, and I can't believe what I'm seeing. So I can't even describe how I was feeling as a mother, as a parent, just as a human being seeing that. So I ran over, I grabbed him by his shoulders, I threw him off. I'm checking my daughter, and she's out of breath. And so I look at him and I ask him, why? What are you doing? What's going on? And his words to me was he wanted to shut her up. So I called the hospital, and there, he went back as he did often. So, that was a common thing. So they wouldn't do anything about it. They said that they were 2 years apart. They weren't going to take him out of the house. And so once again, I was, I felt stuck. I started to get angry. And at the time I didn't know I was angry, but I said, as a human being, I tried to do something good. I adopted a child and to give him a loving home. I'm the only mom he ever has known, but yet my life wasn't that great because of, what was going on with him. And I had no help. So I just managed, it was getting harder and harder, and it was just some really difficult time for me. So as the time went on, so he was 10 when that happened, and all I can say was just he was, as I look back now, and I'm talking to the parents out there, we all love our children and we want to save them, but he was doing things to other children that really was dangerous to them. And me being a parent, I pulled that, but he has mental health issues. And I did that a lot. And when I look back, I probably shouldn't have done that, because there were some times where, he cut a girl one time at the school, at the bus stop, and her parents wanted to press charges, and I was afraid. So after talking with them and letting them know his history, they decided not to, but I probably should have went ahead and let him do it. Mm-hmm. So, I learned. So at the age of 13, after, still going through a lot of stuff, a lot of drama, he stood in front of me and my daughter, and he looked at her and he says, "I'm going to go in the kitchen and get a knife and kill you in your sleep." Mm-hmm. And when he said that, the first thing you think of is, am I dreaming? Did I really hear him say that? And he said it, and it just shook my whole world. So at that point, I had to make a decision. Do I sacrifice one child to save two? Mm-hmm. Or what do I do here? And so I decided I was going to sacrifice one. So I did some things I wasn't proud of, and one of them was I knew that I could not leave him in my house. That it was just not going to happen. I heard what he said. She heard what he said. He could not stay there. So he didn't want to be there anyway. So I talked to him, and, I made a decision. He didn't want to be there. I didn't want him there. So we decided that he would run away and I would help him. And as crazy as it sounds, and it was crazy because I wasn't thinking straight, he packed a bag. And I drove him 2 hours away from where we lived, and I gave him some money. I don't even remember. It was like less than $100 or something. I gave him some money and I put him out, and I left. And it was a sense of relief. I'm just going to say, in all honesty, I was relieved. So I went back home, and my daughter, she was grateful. She could sleep that night. We all could sleep that night. We had a lot of sleepless nights when he was there. Mm-hmm. So I waited for about 4 days before I reported him as a runaway. And I was sure, I was enjoying that time. And so when I reported him as a runaway, the detective came, and she found him quickly. Modern technology, they found him from Facebook. So they picked him up and brought him back. I told her what happened. He admitted it. He said that he said it. She said he had to come back in the house. That wasn't going to work for me. So I just, I said, my thought pattern was I have to save my child here. So she left, and I already knew. I said, look, you're not coming, you're not staying here. So we decided he was going to go again. So I got him in the car, and this time I said, please, do a better job staying under the radar. And I drove him and let him out again. So I waited a week this time. And he promised, and I have to say, he promised he wouldn't, tell that I took him to run away. And he didn't tell. But so I did it again. And then this next time they found him and brought him back. And, I knew I couldn't keep doing that. I had to do something different. So I had came up with a plan. I had my 2 kids in the house. I had food in there. I had told the neighbor what was going to, happen. And if I didn't come back in, it was because I was going to jail, and they had, a plan. So I was standing outside my door, DCF lady, the detective, and a police officer. And I said he couldn't stay. And they said, if you don't let him come in, you're going to jail. I put my hands behind my back, and I said, I'm going to jail. And I was afraid because I've never been to jail before, but I was going to jail. So I looked at him and I said, if you've ever loved me, help me. And I mean, I was just done. When I say I gave it my all, I gave it my all. And he said that he might have a friend who would let him come stay there. And the detective and the DCF lady said, if they found somewhere for him to stay until we can get this worked out, I didn't have to go to jail. So they made the phone call, and I said, God answered my prayers. I didn't want to go to jail, but I was going. So they took him, and he went. I was able to go back in the house with my kids. But meanwhile, I knew a situation wasn't going to, change or get better because I had been years asking for help, which I didn't get. So I get on the phone. I'm offering just anybody, please take this child, $500 a month, I'll pay you, So I'm calling. He ended up staying at his friend's house for about a week. And then I had to make a decision. He was either coming back home or what we was going to do. And God saved me once again. A cousin from Ohio, 16 hours away, 1,000 miles, he said he would take him. He's like 6 foot, big guy. He's like, I can handle him. Just bring him to me. Woo, I went and picked him up. I had his stuff already packed. It was a 16-hour drive. I made it in 16 and a half hours. That's how fast I was rolling. We stopped like 3 times. We stopped 3 times and I kept it moving. Let me tell you. So when we got there, I threw his stuff out in the driveway and I was done. And I left. I didn't say bye to him and I left. Well, let me tell you, it took me 21 hours to get home because I couldn't stop crying. I cried the whole time. I cried and I had to pull over because I couldn't see. And I cried. So I got home and life should have been much better, but my heart was broken. It was the worst feeling ever. So I was struggling it took me, about 4 months and I realized I'm not getting better. But meanwhile, he didn't even last that long at my cousin's house. He tried him. They had physical altercations and he left from there. So, but I was like, well, he's not my problem anymore. So after about 4 months, I made a decision that I needed to go see a therapist because I needed help. I didn't know what to do. And to be honest, that was the best thing I could have done. She helped me see that I did all I could do. So the guilt, the shame, all that went out the door. And then I had to honestly say that my life and my other 2 kids' life just changed because the house was peaceful. I was able to get to know my other 2 kids because all those years of it was all about him. I didn't really get to know my other kids very well. So that was a blessing that I was able to know them. I was able to finish school, start a career, life, I was like, wow, I'm not used to this because it was always doctor's appointments. It was always going to the school. It was always, defending him. It was a lot. So I went to school originally to be a mental health therapist because I wanted to help people with kids who had mental health issues. I was an expert at it. So unfortunately, in my area, there was just not a lot of jobs for that. So I ended up in substance abuse. And at the time, I thought that was the worst thing ever. That's a hard field to be in. I have a big heart and just seeing, once they get to drug rehab, most of them are hit rock bottom. Mm-hmm. So it actually, looking back, like, a lot of things, it was the best field for me to be in because that's actually where I started coaching. It was so depressing there. And the women, we've all done things that we are ashamed of. And so they had done a lot of things to get drugs that they weren't happy about. And so it was my job to let them know that was the past. You're here today. We have to look at today and moving forward. So time after time, I'm hearing the same story, different face, same story, where women they felt like they weren't worth anything because of the choices that they made. So I was like, wow, I don't think I'd really say I have experience. I experienced feeling helpless, feeling like a victim, but just not feeling worthless. That was hard for me to fathom because these women were beautiful. So I decided that I was going to start creating activities that would boost their self-esteem. And so I originally started with Motivational Mondays. So I would get them because I was a counselor. So I had to hold groups with them all the time and I could choose the topics that I wanted to talk about. And a lot of them they call them process groups. And we would process what they had been through. And I said, I'm tired of that. Let's talk about where they are now and where they're going to be tomorrow. So I did the Motivational Mondays and they became so popular. They were asking for me to we want more. And I said, I think I'm onto something here. And it was only a 4-week program. So it's not much progress you can make in 4 weeks, but that I was seeing progress. I had activities for them like we look in the mirror every day. Most of the time, we're going to fix our hair, what kind of clothes, but we don't really look into our eyes. So I had a 3-minute exercise where you looked into the mirror, and a lot of them couldn't do it. They would break down. They could not do it. But with my encouragement and some other things I set in place, by the 4th week, they were coming out of their shell. Look, Kel, they was looking in the mirror. And you talk about this lion. I had an exercise that we do called the lion's roar. And so we would stand around in a circle, and I would say, lions are powerful, and let me hear you roar. And when they first started, they'd be like, meow. I'd be like, that's a cat. And by the 4th week, roar. And then they would come and tell me that they would be out playing basketball, or they would be out, doing something, and somebody would just break out into a roar. And it made me feel good.
How did they do it?
Roar. That was the end. When they first came in, meow. And so my head starts getting bigger at that time. I'm like, oh, so I'm onto something. So every week, I'm feeling better about coming to work, because like I said, it was hard for me to, just see the pain people were in. And also at the same time, it helped me because I was out of my drama situation. And so that's when I really started taking care of me, because all those years of dealing with him, I kind of got, forgot about myself. I didn't have the desire. Sometimes I didn't have the energy. So I started, when I started working in these drugs, the substance abuse field, I said, man, 9 to 5, I'm here, or some nights I work late. When I'm not here, I have to take care of myself. I started meditating. I started doing affirmations. And at that time, I started getting massages weekly. And I thought it was because they felt good. It was because I needed them. Now that I work for myself and I enjoy what I do, I still get massages, but it's not because I have to. So that field really forced me to take better care of me, and I'm able to share that with other people. So moving along with that situation, I kind of forgot where I was at. I started working in the substance abuse field. Then I started doing coaching. What was happening was the women were contacting me when they would leave, and they wanted more. And so I was like, it was a little, give myself a pat on the back. So that's when I started putting together, actually my coaching is I call it the sassy woman coaching, because I believe that all women have a voice, and we should, be able to communicate what we want. We should know what we want, and we should know our worth. So, I have things in place that, I take women through, and they may come in and they, may not be as outgoing. And when they leave, they're just ready to fly.
I love this so much, Kim. First, thank you for being so open and honest and transparent about your story, because that is, I'm sure, a difficult one to tell.
Yes.
And it's obvious that when you met that therapist, he or she really helped you unleash yourself from the guilt and shame that came along with all of that. And I'm wondering, based on your history and everything that you went through, what is your definition between selfish and self-care?
Selfish and self-care. I believe they go hand in hand, to be honest, because when you're selfish, which I am, then you make sure that you take care of yourself for self-care. So many women think it's getting our nails done, our hair done. No. That's not self-care. You're just, you're taking care of your body. But self-care is me knowing that I'm not a victim. Me knowing that, yes, I didn't get help with that situation, but, me being stronger now with my, and clear-minded, because I wasn't clear-minded. Obviously, I'm taking, my child 2 hours away, dumping them out of the car, but I didn't know what else to do. So being selfish and self-care, for me, my definition would be, it just goes hand in hand, because if I'm selfish about loving me enough, then I'm not going to let things happen around me to hurt me. I'm not going to hurt myself. I'm going to respect myself and others. I'm going to know how to say no, to things that I don't want to do. It just goes along with just making sure I'm taken care of first. So that would be my, I think they go hand in hand for me personally.
I love that you say that, because most people would have a different definition for selfish and self-care. A lot of people say, well, selfish is when we're manipulating situations to benefit us, or and then self-care is when we take care of ourselves in order to help others, right? Like I've always, whenever I've heard the difference between the two, but I love how you marry the two, and you marry them in like the best of ways. And when I think back to when you were telling me about how you went to the therapist and then how you did the massages, like for me in my practice, when I work with folks who are learning about their intuition, the first part about strengthening your intuition is clearing your inner dimensions, which are mental, emotional, and physical. So I assume that the therapist may have helped you mostly with the mental, and then the massage therapist may have helped you release any energy that was like still attached in your physical body. But where did you seek the help, or how did you address the emotional component that went along with the history with your son?
I'm going to say meditation all day and night. Meditation. I meditate every day, and it changed my life. I mean, it doesn't take long. I mean, for me, there's different types of meditation because I introduce it to my clients, and some like the guided more so than some like, for me, I have gotten so where I just, I can tune everything out. So I don't need guided. I can just be still and be quiet. And I do have to say that I think one of the things that kept me sane all those years of drama in my household is I've been going on a silent retreat one week out of the year for probably 20 something years. So I started that at an early age. I was in my early 20s. So let me tell you, I look forward to that week. And it was just regrouping, recharging of just silence for a whole week. So that really gave me a lot of inner strength. So when I was able to start meditating, I became clear. And then of course, you get guidance. Someone once said that praying is asking God for something, and meditation is getting the answer. And I truly believe that. I was just guided through what I needed to do to release, and the fact that I live in the present and the here and now. So I didn't really, after seeing the therapist and everything, I was able to let the past go. It was the past. He wasn't in my life anymore. As a matter of fact, I didn't even speak or talk to him. He's in prison right now, by the way. But he started at the age, let me see, 13 is when we parted. I used to say got rid of him, but I'll say parted. It sounds nicer. So by the time he was 15, I believe, he was in the in the juvenile detention center. He spent a year and a half there. And when he got out, it was just going back and forth, and now he's in prison. So I do talk to him now, and he is, I will say, not mature enough, but he has taken responsibility for his actions. Even though there's mental health issues there was a lot of times that he was just making choices because that was just what he wanted to do. So we talked, and he thanked me for being a good parent, and he doesn't hold anything against me. I don't hold anything against him. But I have learned that I can love from a distance, and it's okay.
I actually say love from afar when my husband loves to like he's never been around cats before, and like I've had cats my whole life, right? So like he just doesn't know what to do, but he like secretly loves my cat. Like I'll come around the corner and I'll see them, like, he's like, and I'll catch him. He's like, but like I always say to him, like, love her from afar. Like you don't have to squeeze her and like hold her and kiss her. Like, love her from afar. So that's funny that you said that. I'm wondering, we talked about God a little bit, and you clearly talked about like having inner strength and empowering women and empowering yourself. What is your definition around like that inner power that we have? Some people call it self-will, some people call it, self-determination, and then an outer power, which is God, the universe, that divine power that makes food come up out of the ground and the sun set at night. Like, talk a little bit about the two powers and how you tap into both.
Well, I'll have to say that I don't look at it like it's a separation of two. I look at like God is within me, so it's one. So, everybody has their own beliefs, but my belief is that God is in me, and that is where I get my strength. Well, and I call it a few things. I mean, my inner GPS, which is what I love to use with clients. It's like, your guidance system, and it comes from within, which mine, I love, love, love. You can never go wrong. And part of my message is to get out of your head and into your heart, because when you follow your heart, man, life is good. But spirituality is very important to me. I have my rituals that I do every morning. It fuels me to know that all is well in my life. Even when I thought that was the worst time of my life, I don't regret any of it, and it made me who I am today. So, and to be honest, it made me strong enough to work in substance abuse for 5 years, because I don't think I could have done it if I hadn't have dealt with all the stuff that I dealt with my son. So, I'm more wiser now to know when things happen that it's okay. I don't, when I thought I was being punished during that time. So now I know that it's never about punishment. It's all about me learning from it. I don't regret anything that I do, because for me, I live a conscious life. So at the end of the day, I'm going to look back and say, what happened during the day? What could I have done better? What can I learn from this? And it just works for me.
I want to go a little bit deeper on something that you said, because I'm really spiritual too, and everybody does have their own beliefs, and I'm curious about, like, when you patted yourself on the back earlier. Like, I ask my clients to do that all the time, because it took me forever to realize that I had to actually and physically, like, say, good job, Rebecca, good job.
Mm-hmm.
It took me like I'm talking within the last 3 years, like I just had this realization. I was in a spiritual group for a really long time, which in a lot of ways was very cultish, because it taught me to give all my praise to God. It was wrong for me to pat myself on the back or think that I had anything to do with doing something good for myself or others. And so I want to hear, I don't know how to phrase a question, but I'm curious to know, like, how you're able to pat yourself on the back, but also give praise to God for helping you do the things that you do.
Okay, good question. It's because I believe I create my own reality. So for me, if God is within me, which for me, I feel like he's, creator of worlds. So as big and as great as he is, I'm the same. And that's why I come in with, I am worthy. I am worth, having what I want in life. I'm worth having financial stability. I'm worth having, I'm currently single happily for 3.5 years, but when I'm ready for that partner, I'm worth it. I know what I want in a man, and he's out there, but I'm not willing to settle. So for me, it's just a matter of knowing what I want in my life, knowing that I create my reality. I can wake up every day, and life is all about choices. I have a choice every minute of the day. I choose to be who I am, which is a powerful woman who has a voice. I choose to love myself enough that I don't do things that are detrimental to myself. I choose to be happy. So life is about a choice, and my choices I'm okay with. And it's funny. Well, I'll tell you, I made a video. I haven't released it yet, but I ride motorcycles. And so I have a sport bike, which goes about 170 miles an hour. And I have a cruiser, which I'll go about 100 miles an hour on that. I'm never going to go, but they're both.
The cruiser speed was going to be like 30 to 35.
No, 100 miles an hour is about normal for me.
Okay.
But when I ride that cruiser, it's the same as a motorcycle. Same dangers out there. I never wear a helmet. I get on that bike and I got my scarf on, I'm rolling. But when I ride the sport bike, I'm intimidated by that bike. I want to wear a helmet, and my gloves, everything. And so I did a video explaining the two bikes, and it doesn't really make any sense why I would perceive one to be more dangerous than the other. So, but here's the thing, I own my decision. So, I'm doing something that doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm okay with it. I'm not feeling guilty about it. I'm not complaining about it. I just do it, and I'm okay with it. So I just, tell people that if you're going to do something, just, if it's, don't beat yourself up about it. Just be okay with it. It is what it is. You'll change it when you get ready. So obviously you're not ready. And so I'm all about, one thing with working in substance abuse, it made me, everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. And I heard so many that I just, I'm not judgmental like that. And I can have compassion for people, but we have to start with having it for ourselves, especially as women. We're so hard on ourselves. And so for me, the top three challenges that I find with women is they think that they're fat. They, their mindset is telling them that they're ugly, they're not lovable, they're not worthy. If they are single, they're usually afraid they're going to be single all their life. So they kind of like want a man, just, you're breathing, let's get married. Or sometimes if they're already married, they're waking up every day and it's just like, oh, but I'm married, but they're not happy. So, those are the top three things that I find in my practice that, women deal with. And I just say at the end of the day, get to know you, get to love you, because when you look outside of yourself for love, validation, all these things, you're going to get disappointed. But when I can give it to myself, oh, I got this.
All right, so let's talk about choices, right? Because like I've struggled with food my entire life. It's a big part of my story, right? And so let's say it's dinner time and I really don't feel like making anything, and there's something in the refrigerator from 3 nights ago that's still good, that's probably not the best for me, or I could push myself to make something healthy, right? Like, let's take a scenario like that. Like, how in that moment, the right choice for me, like long term, would be to have the healthy option. Okay. How in that moment do I choose the healthy option?
The healthy option for me would be at that moment to choose what I want. And if it's the not so healthy option, I'm going to choose that, because guess what? Tomorrow may never come for me. So I'm not going to think down the road of, well, I need to choose the healthier option because I might gain an extra pound or two. I might not be alive to gain an extra pound or two. It doesn't matter. I'm going to choose what I want right now. And that's just for me.
But what if it becomes a pattern where every single time you're not making the healthy choice, and now instead of gaining a couple pounds, you've gained 100 pounds, right? So like at some point it becomes something that you've wired your brain for, and it's a disservice to you. So how do you unwire the brain to get it on a different track where you're caring for yourself and you are loving yourself by having that good food?
Well, that's what I'm going to say. That's when you go get a coach. No, I'm just kidding. No, okay, seriously. But
well, let's say you're the coach, right? What would happen?
Well, that's when, for me, I have a lot of tools in my toolbox. So when I'm working with somebody, they're going to have some coping skills, as you may call them, to be able to, if they do, quote unquote, fall off the wagon, they know that, okay, that was just a choice you made. It's over. You made it. You're not going to beat yourself up about it. The next time, but you said if it was a pattern, but that person would really need to, if they were doing things that, let's see, if they were doing things that was really, I'm at a loss for words, taking care of themselves, like spiritually wise, like if you had your meditation practice, if you did your affirmations, if you took time out, I always say there's 86,400 seconds in a day. 1,800 seconds is only 30 minutes. Take time for you. So if you were doing things like, enjoying yourself for that 30 minutes, doing things like that, you probably wouldn't stay in that pattern very long. But I mean, obviously, if you didn't have any coping skills, then that's when people get stuck. So I would just, somebody that has that going on would just actually need to do something different. Because if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting the same thing. So that's a hard one for me. But hopefully that person would realize at some point, hey, I need help, and reach out for help, and then that would just break that pattern, and they could move on.
Okay, so let's say that person has been working with you and you're seeing those results. And now they're starting to emerge as this person that was sort of someone who was hiding before is now, finding their roar, as you said earlier. So
Yes.
what is going on there, and how are you encouraging that person to just unleash that roar and continue to become who they're meant to be or who they want to be?
Well, everyone is different. And so when I first started coaching, I was more so with the law of attraction. And what I found is that's not for everybody. Everybody doesn't believe that. And that's fine. But the people who did believe it, I just, saw them flourish and their life just changed. But I got away from that. I still sprinkle it in because if somebody's open to it. But the reason I got away from it is because if somebody really didn't believe that they were a creator of their reality, they could have what they want and all that, it looked bad for me. It looked like I wasn't doing, a service to them when they have all the power. I could only present things to you. So I just kind of got away from that. And with my coaching, there's certain things that everybody works on because we work on limiting beliefs, we work on goals, we work on those. But I also customize it for if someone is having issues with, say, food, if they are having issues with some people don't have boundaries. They don't know how to set healthy boundaries. So I take a look at that person and what they, feel they need and where they want to go in their life. And then it's customized. So I have different tools for different people, but meditation is not for everybody. If some people don't want to do meditation, then that's fine. So we go to something else. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to tools that take care of your mind, your body, and your spirit. And sometimes we have to start slowly, depending on where that person is. Everybody's not ready for that. But what I find is, like I said, it's customizable, but sometimes I usually wait for limiting beliefs, probably is about the fifth session with me. But if someone's so resistant at the beginning, I'm going to move that up. And so when we start getting in with those beliefs, and what is a belief? It's just something that you've been telling yourself over and over, or somebody's been telling you, and you decide that it's true. It doesn't make it true, but it's just something. If someone tells you, all your life that you're stupid, you're going to grow up and you're probably going to think you're stupid. That doesn't mean that you're stupid, but that means that you've heard it so long and you've unfortunately bought into that. So for me, it just depends on where that person is, but I'm going to pull out something that they can see that they can, if they just make a little bit of changes, they can see some progress. So sometimes we have to take baby steps.
Let's talk about the creative process of that customization. When you are working with your clients and, you may have some things in your tool bag that are very, very helpful and they're pretty universal to everyone. But when you get down to understanding that person and understanding exactly what you believe they need after they've communicated, what their issue is or what's going on in their life, what is it like for you to be in those sessions and in the moment just know exactly what tool to use as you customize that path for them?
You're asking, how does that make me feel?
Yeah, like what is that like when they say something and like all of a sudden you just get inspired and you're like, I know exactly what I'm going to do with this person, whether it's a visualization, whether it's, I'm going to have you take inventory on this and we're going to work on that. Like, just talk to me like personally about what it's like to have that inspiration run through you.
Well, first I have to say it makes my heart smile. And that's why I get up and do what I do every day. Because for me, and, with women, like I said, I watched so many beautiful women think they weren't beautiful. And so, it hurt my heart for a long time. So for me to know that I do and I can make a difference in their life, it's just a feeling of joy, a feeling of satisfaction, a feeling of, just like, woohoo. So for me, my work is really not work. I get up and do what I do every day. And it's just, for me, it's just part of who I am. So I don't feel like that I'm working. I don't feel like it's a chore. I enjoy inspiring people, and I don't say motivating because motivation wears off. I choose to inspire people. So when you wake up in the morning, you have an intention or you're on a mission to really enjoy your life, because really life is too short. And that's why I live for today. And yes, we can look forward to tomorrow, but tomorrow may not come. So what about today? And I tell my kids all the time, I've been riding for about 8 years. And, I say, if something happens to me out there and I die, just know that I died doing something that I love. And they have always been okay with that. And I'm okay with that. So, I don't want to live life in fear. I did that for many years. When I was unleashed, ooh, girl, watch out. Ooh. So yeah, those 8 years for me, those 8 years, before that, I was outgoing. I've always been outgoing. I've always been outspoken. I've always enjoyed life. And for 8 years, I got off the path. I was off the path, but at the end of the day, I really was on my path. I felt like I was off my path, but I was on my path, and I continue to be on my path. So, I just, for me, I just wake up and I appreciate everything in my life. Everything. I really don't even have bad days. I call them off days. If something happens, and that's another thing too, like emotions, we all have them, and it's a matter of processing them, because a lot of times when something comes up for us and it feels uncomfortable, what do we want to do? We want to self-medicate, whether it's with food, gambling, sex, drugs. We don't want to feel what it is we're feeling. And I wrote a book that I'll talk about later that I give away for free. But in the book, it just talks about just sit with it. It may be a little uncomfortable, but just sit with it. And everything changes. It's not going to stay the same, but just try something different. Because Iyanla Van Zant says, feelings buried alive never die. And I truly believe that. We can mask them, we can try to forget about them, but they're going to come back up somewhere. And like I said, for many years, I was angry and I didn't know it. I just thought that, that I knew I was upset. I knew I was unhappy, but at the end of the day, I was angry. So, once you release and let all that go, and unfortunately, some people have lived that way for so long, they don't know, peace of mind to me is priceless. And that's why no man, no job, no family member, nothing will ever come in between me and my peace of mind again, never. So.
You are clearly wired for personal growth, and I'm wondering what aspects of your personal growth are influenced by your coaching and your clients.
Well, a lot of it, I would say, because once again, me knowing me enough, me loving me enough, just makes me want to share. It just makes me want to share it. And so I just love what I do, and I do it because, I've been through some things, and I know there's people that are doing the same. And for me to be able to help them get through it, I just love that feeling. I love it. Love it.
Well, I've been so inspired by you today. Absolutely. And I'm sure that there are many who listen to your story and when you were telling it felt so devastated in so many ways. Like, I'm sure a lot of emotions were coming up for them as they did for me as I was listening. And to see you, this bright, shining spirit that's just like unleashed is like the best word that I can think of. You're just like, boom, out there on your motorcycle going 170 miles an hour. I mean, you're in Florida, right, Kim? I mean,
yes.
You're from northern Florida and I'm in southwest Florida. I think you could probably, we could leave this running and in a half an hour, I could just fill some time and you could just be right here, next to me. We could do the interview in the same time.
Let's make it clear. I'm not going 160 miles on that bike. Now, it goes 160 miles. I don't do 160 on it.
I don't know about that, Kim. So, I mean, that's Godspeed right there, right?
Oh, yeah.
So tell us how we can contact you. Talk about your book. Just tell us about your
Yes.
coaching and how we can do this.
Thank you. Well, my book was written from a place of love. And I tell you, it's called You Were Meant to Fly. And the fly stands for First Love Yourself. It's, yes, it's a guide to loving the most important person in your life, you. And I love it. It's some good stuff in there. And I'll just warn you, it was free on my website. So you can go to kimtrosper.com and that book is free. And then I wrote a book of affirmations, and the affirmations cover love, career, health, spirituality. Because, you know, for people who are into affirmations, I give, you know, I think it's 15 or 20 for each subject. But my book has 3 pages. Yes, I said it. 1, 2, 3. And it's a short but powerful book, but it has 3 pages of questions in there. And they're designed for you to get to know you. Because of so many people, they don't know who they are. They don't know what they want. So I tell people, just take a few minutes. If you took 10 minutes a day and just answer those questions, they're designed that when you're done, you know, you have a better understanding of who you are. And my big thing with women is getting clarity on what you want. Most of us know what we don't want, but a lot of us don't know what we do want. And when you know what you want, you can get it. You can, you know, you can get to it. So that's my free book and affirmation at kimtrosper.com. If you'd like to work with me, I have, this is my website, Sassy Women Coaching. That's sassywomencoaching.com. That's, I have a video training on there that is called Letting Go of Toxic Relationships. And so I talk about that, and then I talk about how you can work with me. So that's at that website. And I do a daily podcast. I'm on Alexa. So if you have Alexa, you could ask for your
Kim Trosper now. And does it come on?
No, you'll say, Alexa, play my flash briefings, and then I'll come on. And it's called the Prosper Empowerment Tip of the Day. And I just give tips on all kind of stuff that add value to people's lives. Today's tip was actually about 18 superfoods, but I give car hacks for cleaning cars. I give tips on helping kids have better self-esteem. So it's just all over. And they're only 2 minutes.
How do you get the crumbs that fall within like the thin crevices in your car, like in the console? You got a tip for that?
I do. Hey, actually, the cup holder. You can take cupcake holders and put down in your cup holders and for your cups, but I don't know about crumbs. So yeah, maybe take a paper towel or something, put in there. But so I'm on Alexa, and then if you go to my kimtrosper.com, I have a page called Freebies. And so you can listen to my daily podcast there. I do Facebook Live. So every week I have a special guest on, and I'm really excited to have coming up a expert that's going to talk about, I'm going to do this probably for August, but teenagers and bullying and suicide, because when school gets ready to start back. So I'm always wanting to provide information that will help people live better quality lives, because so many people are quietly suffering, and it doesn't have to be that way. You're not the only one out there that feels that way. And for me, when I was going through that stuff with my son, I wasn't getting any help. I couldn't talk to somebody. Hate is a strong word, and I really don't think I've ever had hate in my heart, but I really disliked this child. But that was my baby. How could you not like your child? I'm not the only one out there that feels that way. But at the time, I thought I was. And I didn't have anybody really to reach out and, I was trying to reach out and say, help me with the system. But on a personal level, you don't want to tell a friend or a family member that you really don't like your child. But that was what was going on. So I want people to know they're not alone. There's people out here, and, just because I didn't get the help that I needed doesn't mean that there's not help out there. So I'm a real advocate for people speaking up and, asking for help. We're further along now. There's more help out here. So anyway, but at that kimtrosper.com, I have freebies where you can get lots of good information. Sassywomancoaching.com is where you can see my webinar on letting go of toxic relationships. And if you wanted to find out more about working with me, you can do that there. So.
You know what I love about this? We talked about selfishness and we talked about self-care, but what I'm really hearing after you were saying all this stuff that you're just freely giving to others and that you want to help others, like, this is selfless. Like, you, I mean, as selfish as you say you are, you actually are like equally as selfless. And it's like, for me, I just kind of see like this visual of like the energy coming in, the energy going out, and it's a nice balanced energy. So that the more, I mean, this is really a great example of when you care for yourself, how much you really can care for other people. So Kim, I just really want to thank you for being here today. It was absolutely my pleasure to have you, and I learned so much from you. I always say that about all my guests, but this is like I was thinking about it today. I was like, man, if I had all the money in the world, I would just like every coach that I like meet, I would just like buy a package and work with every single coach that I've met, you know, 'cause we all have something different to offer, and it all stems from our own experience and who we are, and that we're all unique. But I mean, I just, man, like, God, please give me all the money in the world just so I can work with all the coaches in the world. Okay. That's going on my vision board. All right. So
All right.
viewers, I love you guys. Thanks for sticking with us. What a beautiful and special episode we had. You know, reach out to Kim. Like, her, like, can you guys tell how infectious her like positive energy is? I mean, she's just, I just like want to go like this. Right?
Aww.
Like, reach out to her. She is clearly amazing. She has so much to offer. I have no doubt in my mind that she, within a session or two, will turn your life around. So make sure you reach out. Make sure you go to kimtrosper.com. And that's going to be it for us today. Thanks again. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye. For my Sassy Woman coaching, when I did the research on it, everybody was saying sassy was Latinas, Black women, hands on our hips, snapping our fingers, all that. I said, that's not what sassy means to me. So I did a, girl, I said, I did a video, and the women, I asked them to choose a word that they felt fit them, and then say the word, and I am a sassy woman.
Transformation, I am a sassy woman.
Happy, I am a sassy woman.
Multifaceted, I am a sassy woman.
Powerful, I am a sassy woman.
Courageous, I am a sassy woman.
Authentic, I am a sassy woman.
Confident, I am a sassy woman.
Empowered, I am a sassy woman.
Complex, I am a sassy woman.
Giver, I am a sassy woman.
Discipline, I am a sassy woman.
Soy fuerte, and I'm a sassy woman. Bye.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you and I can see you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
I can't hear you.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, now I can hear you.
Okay.